Hi, welcome back to Mike Makes It. This part 3 of a series of videos I'm doing, how I dismantled the AGA, moved it a tad, and put it back into position. I'll say this is how I did it. I'm not suggesting this is how you should do it. You may want to get a professional in to do it. I'm confident in the work I'm doing. So we'll continue. You may see the base, the black line around there, more than a line. It's where I made the base a little bit wider and moved it over a tad. Basically, I chopped away at the old base, added some extra concrete around the outside, painted it black to match the Aga base. Uh, this is part of the Aga base. This I've also cleaned up and repainted, so hopefully it'll blend into one down to the floor when it's finished. What I'm going to do now is just lay the base flat down like it was. Um, Basically, I'm simply going to reverse what I've done already. Put the devil back together. So that's the plan today. The base is around, hopefully round about the right size that I need. So I'm just going to simply line up the edges and start rebuilding it. You may see there's a channel here I've chopped in. It's not standard. Um, the reason AGA put a tube in the side of the cooker itself is if you ever have to replace the overheat sensor, the cables, the copper pipe, etc., you can do it without dismantling the AGA. Now, we've never had to replace any pipes, cables, etc. on the AGA, so I'm going to take the chance the next 25 years I'm not going to have to do that. So I've put a channel in diagonally in the concrete base that'll run under the AGA that'll hopefully make it look a little bit better. On that side of the AGA, you had a control box. On my AGA, on the left-hand side, there's an oil control box, and the services come into the AGA. They're clearly visible from the side of the AGA as you walk through the door there. So, as I said, it's diagonal thing cut in the concrete. The cables, pipes, etc., will exit over the far left-hand side, which will be where cupboard is going to go. So they will be hidden. That's the plan. Hopefully it'll work out okay. But that's pretty much the first thing we're going to have to put in. But I'm going to drop the base down, wiggle a few pipes and bits and pieces through, then start rebuilding it. All right, I'm going to drop this base down. We're going to have a little bit of a wiggling around. But these plates were put in by the original installer that marry up to where the upstands go that hold the actual oven. We'll drop this down a tad. You can see, let's take that off. That's just to keep all the vermiculite in. But yeah, these, and move it back. Scratchy noise. This is where the oven sits. You can adjust these to square up the oven height. But interestingly, there wasn't one here. There's one there. You can see how it's moved over a tad. I don't know if you can actually see that. I've marked the floor where the originals were. So there's one under that one under there, one under there. I do have two more, but they weren't marked up, possibly because I couldn't see them. But whether they're actually necessary, I would probably say they might be, because you've got a gap under the casting. There you haven't. So I suspect this plate was more supporting the casting. I did originally think when that arm, bolt, pillar, whatever you want to call it, was screwed in, it might have something to do with that. But I think it's more to support the casting. No need there though, see, so there wasn't one there. Here, yeah, probably wasn't anything under that though. But anyhow, that's what I'm gonna do. I'll go line that up a little bit, and I'll work out what I'll do next. Probably here. If you see the cutout, that's lined up. All the services come into the Aga there. So I'll probably best start threading pipes and bits and pieces through there. And I'll bring you back when that's done. Right, made some small amount of progress. One thing you do want to do, and don't forget, make sure you put this plate back in and this plate. I Perhaps you can leave in the comments if you see it. I'm sure I had a red plate here that just covers over casting holes. What you don't want to do is have all the vermiculite escape down here, and obviously over here it's even bigger area. Normally on an Arga, two of these plates are supplied, and I'll put money on it. This plate was supplied. I'm holding my hand and waving, but I've lost it. I will find it the moment I start putting the Arga back together. But nevertheless, this is, I think, 1 mil steel plate. It's literally just to stop the vermiculite getting out and underneath. So you don't need to glue them in or anything. They just sit there. Let gravity do the work. Same with over here. Now these posts, if you want to call them that, they're threaded bar. I think it's 1/2 inch thread. So you don't really want to lose them if you're going metric. All right, but just down here and there on the thread, jolly old 3-in-1 oil, because you're going to be lying on your back later with a pair of mole grips, turning that to get the oven level, because that's where the ovens rest. But I haven't especially altered them. I had a bit of tape round, stop them moving, so hopefully the ovens will pretty much just sit straight back on. Now these are the services I was talking about. On my Arga, there's an 8 mil copper pipe that feeds oil into the burner unit, and it goes over to an elbow. If I just turn around, the ash pit, they call it, even though there's no ash in here, it's oil. But they call it an ash pit regardless if you add solid fuel, coal, which I guess is solid fuel, oil, gas, etc. But there's your ash pit. But that copper pipe I just showed you connects up to this elbow. Now it's 8 mil going in, and it's something imperial coming out. I can't tell you what it is because I don't know. It should be easy enough to research it online if you need to replace that elbow. But I'm using that one, the same one. We swing back here. There's a cable coming in. That's for the thermostat. That's actually going to run off to the box just behind the chimney over there. Now, at the moment, don't get confused with the cable. This cable will come back to the control box, and from the control box, it will go up to the transformer that's in the silver box you can just about see there. But I'm a bit short of cable, and I'm trying to make do without having to buy some. So I'm going to connect this end in first, which is important. Then I could connect, when I fitted it, the control box on the wall there and cut the cable where I need to cut it. And hopefully I'll have enough left over. But it's not a direct connection from that box to the thermostat. It's not. Okay, so don't go doing that. The cable coming out of there, like I say, and this is the over temperature sensor. I say it's a sensor. This is a copper file filled with liquid, and when it gets a certain temperature, the expansion rate of that liquid will trip that unit. That mounts on the control box as well. The copper pipe is very thin. I'd say like 2 mil diameter. That's filled with liquid, so you want to go really, really careful when you're manipulating them. Otherwise, you're going to have a broken cable and a £50 bill for a new one of them things. But this is roughly in place. I can move it, as you can see. Same with the copper pipe, bit of flexibility there going on. And the cable. So I've got a little bit of leeway this end. This will push back if I need to. Hopefully, if I ever had to change it, I've left enough space in the concrete and that channel there to actually do so. Never have done up to now. It's not the it can fail. I was going to say it's not the thing that fails, but I guess anything can fail. But hopefully this won't. It's a new one because the other one wasn't quite long enough. I think the other one was about 2 meters. I'm not going to reach the control box. The control box, if you can visualize, was in this area. Well, I'm shifting it around the corner. Argus say you can have it up to a metre away from the cooker, so I should be just about in that spec. But now I've got to lift the ovens back on. Bit difficult to video, but I'll give it a go. I don't know if I can lift them on my own, so I may have to get some help. But really, basically repositioning the ovens in a proximate position and sliding them around as the front gets fitted. But that's the next thing to do. Okay, that's the main base oven or the baking oven fitted. I'm going to tweak it around a little bit here just to try to square it up. But until the face of the Arga is fitted, we're not too sure where it's going to go. So we need to make approximate guesses, really. But the next thing is probably to put this in, the boiler unit, the ash pit. Um, I'll have a little think and I'll come back to you. But yeah, baking oven is roughly in position. Before I fit the roasting oven, which is this big heavy devil over here, I just wanted to show you. I think they call it a heat plate. Big slab of steel here. Don't forget to put that in. That's the last thing you want to find at the end of the day, sitting next to your cupboard after the Arga's been reassembled. Very important that gets put in now because it's going to get sandwiched between the two ovens. No real screws, it just sits there. This pin, that pin, and the one at the back, there's three. Three, that's five. There's three of those that level the top oven. A little bit like the process of the bottom oven. You see the three legs there, pins, whatever you want to call them. These are adjustable from within the oven, the lower oven. You might see that turning. So that's how you adjust them from it in the baking oven. You twiddle them to get the roasting oven level. And the heat plate will get pushed onto the heat barrel, onto the barrel there. There's a bolt, that single bolt that just pushes that in when we put the roasting oven on. You'll see that in a minute. Again, I've oiled these up just so they're a little bit easier to move should we need to adjust them. So I'm going to bang the top roasting oven on now, and then I can level the front with a spirit level. If you're not putting the front plate on just yet, on mine there's a groove here. From there to the face of these ovens should be about 3 inches, just ballpark. Not too sure about the side yet. So it's all, probably the next move is after I put the top oven on, I may put the ash pit in, then put the front of the Arga on, because that's the main thing that's going to allow these to be positioned correctly. There's no point in, you know, these have got to go in now. And really, I'm just thinking to myself a moment. I don't do many Arga reinstalls, as you probably appreciate. Yeah, I'm going to get the top oven on. I'll put the ash pit in. Now I'm going to put the front panel of the Arga on. Then I can reposition these to suit the holes in the front of the Arga, which to me makes some sense. That's what I'm going to do now. Right, there you go. We've got the roasting oven on top of the baking oven. Because they're castings, nothing is absolutely square. Like even the base was warped, all due to the casting process called Nuaga. But what I'm going to use as like a datum, if you like, is the edge of this oven compared to the oven below it. So I'm going to put a spirit level down this edge to make sure they're in line as much as we can, and also back to front, making sure they're fairly in line, and to check for level. At the moment, they're horribly out. The lower oven's out to the top and the top's out to the bottom. So, you know, one's got to come up, the other's got to go down, in my view. One thing around here I need to do, I've got some new, it's not wick, it's like a gasket. It's a bit like wick on a fire door. That's why I'm saying it's wick. It's not wick in this case. Um, it's a fireproof gasket made. I don't think this is made up of ceramic material. whatever it is heat resistant. I've got some spare, but looking at it, this one's not damaged, so I'm simply going to glue it back into place. And that's not the old Evo stick or anything. I've got some of this. Different manufacturers, I'm sure, are out there. VicCas, heat resistant rope adhesive, and that's exactly what this is. Heat proof, heat resistant rope gasket. I'm still calling it gasket. So I'm going to bond that back on. That takes a while to set. So for now, I'm going to bond that back on, put a bit of tape on to hold it in place, and go on to do other things on the cooker. One thing I want to point out as well, around here, you have what they call an oven tunnel. So if you open the door of the Aga, you'll see about 2 inches of aluminium in my case running all the way around, top and bottom. I'll take you over here to where they are. This is one of them. I was going to get stainless steel replacements, but that went bad on eBay, so I'm sticking with these. They want a little bit of cleaning up. They are only aluminium, but they're almost like a compression gasket or compression washer on cars, or that's how they seem to have been fitted. I.e., if your oven over there is a little bit wonky, a little bit down, and you haven't adjusted it, they just squeeze the bolts up a bit more. And the aluminium here bends. You probably can't see that too well, but there's a definite cup going on there. Whereas on this side, although it's a bit dirty, it's flat. Over here, there's a cup going on. On the other tunnel over here, similar things. So as the bolts get done up over here, it compresses the front of the Aga, the main panel you see, to these ovens. So that gasket, I call it a gasket, it's a tunnel. The tunnel here will get compressed on one side or the other side or the top or the bottom if this is out of skew. So what I'm going to do is try to get these as square as I can. I'm not going to hopefully affect the relationship of this gap here, because that was effectively okay on the Aga. But I believe this one's tipping down, this one's tipping up. But with these legs down here and the bolts in here I showed you earlier, which you can't see, oh, there they go. Under there, there's one there. There's 3 in all on the top. I did mention that earlier. I can use them to level all the ovens up. One thing I did get wrong, I said that plate was a heat transfer plate. Bopping backwards and forwards. This bottom plate, which you've got to put on first. You see it moving there. That may well be called a heat transfer plate, but there's no bolt adjustment on that. The bolt adjustment is on a plate that's bolted to the top oven, which you can just about see. There's one bolt there, one bolt there. That's for pushing the whole plate forward against the barrel, the heat barrel. And this is it here. Don't move so easily, because the legs are pushing against this, so it's clamping it basically on the top oven. So that's what the bolts are for, just to jimmy it out a little bit. Now I've not adjusted the bolts at the back, so they should be in the right position, near enough. So shouldn't have to adjust this, but this should just get pushed forward when it's all assembled. So off camera, I'm gonna put a drop of glue around that, tape that up, get these as level as I can. Then realistically, I think I'm going to put the front plate on, the front panel of the Aga, because if I don't do that, I won't know the relationship of the ovens to the front panel. So yeah, probably off camera I'll do that. I've been chatting enough now, so I'll show you the end results. Yeah, all I'm doing to level it is, for instance, I've got a spirit level in there, sitting as flat as I can on the oven. Pair of mold grips under here on those threaded bars, as you can see. And if I can position the camera and turn the mold grips, you might actually see the results. Not sure you're going to see it square on there, but it appears the oven's got to come up to the back. So I'm going to turn the rod a little bit anti-clockwise to lengthen it, and we're almost there. What's the worst can happen? And that's pretty good. We move into there, you can just about see the bubble, and to my eye that's square back to front. I've also leveled it left to right. What is critically important, as if you were going to the moon, this top plate needs to be bang on level, because that's where the hot plate sits. So there'll be a quick noise. Hang on. Don't know if you can have a quick noise, but there was one. Put the spirit level on there. Now I haven't leveled the top oven. I've got to level the top oven, but I've also got to bear in mind that wants to be level. You can see we're probably 3 or 4 mil out at the minute. So if that wasn't level, if you're frying your old eggs on the ring there, they all go to one side, which isn't fun. The sausages be rolling out the pan. So I've got to get the oven as square as I can, but that's got to be bang on. So that's what I'm going to tweak now. But this time, you saw them earlier, there's 3 bolts in the lower oven that press up onto the top oven via this big thermal transfer plate, whatever you wish to call it. So what I'm going to do now is adjust the bottom oven, making sure I end up with a bang on level up there. So that's what I'm going to do off camera, but I think you get the idea. It's all mechanical stuff. There's nothing too strenuous got to go on here. All right, it's a new morning, back to the AGA. What I have done now is offered the front of the AGA up to the main body, if you can see what I mean. It's level, it's vertically level. Workbench is just holding it in that position. When you place the front of the AGA into the base, there's a channel it sits in, so you can't really go wrong there. There's a little bit of wiggle room left to right, but very, very little. So basically that's sitting where it feels it should sit in the base of the AGA, in that black frame that's running round. So this is vertical. The ovens aren't too bad, but I have got to double check the level because I've got to move them forward. If you can see here, I've got the tunnels placed roughly on the ovens themselves, and we've got a big gap here. Now this tunnel needs to snug up to the frame, obviously to keep all the heat in, stop the vermiculite getting out. So I've got to wiggle these pair of them ovens, a little bit heavy, forward to tally up with this, close this gap right up. So I'm going to do that off camera because you're not going to see anything useful. What I have found in moving the ovens, the best way of doing it, you've got 3 bolts or pillars here, one there, one at the back, one at the other side we can't see. What I've done is tap them gently the opposite direction to where I want the ovens to move. So this bolt here, pillar, I'm going to tap it to the back. Same with the other one, and the third one we can't see. And that'll encourage all the ovens to move forward a little bit. Got to be careful, it's all cast in. This is cast in, so you don't want to go whacking this too tight, too hard. But I've got a rubber mallet that seems to be living up to its name and doing a nice, careful job of hitting things. So yeah, I'm going to tap those back. The ovens will move forward, and this gap should close up. It looks fairly parallel. The gap here is similar to the one at the top, so that's all good news. So once they are sitting snug at the front, I'll double check the alignment of these ovens, not necessarily to one another, although that should be good, but also horizontal and vertical movements, make sure they are level. And I said in my last little video I did, it's very important that top machine surface is bang on level, because if it isn't, all your eggs will run over. But I think you understand that. So that's what I'm going to do off camera, a little tappy tappy, bring it forward. Hopefully the next thing you'll see is this will be snugged up and these will be level. I will confirm that in a few minutes. Right, okay, got the 2 ovens in. They leveled both horizontally and vertically, and they tightened up. there's on my oven, there's studs. They look like metric with 13 mil nut on it, so they'd be 10 mil studs, two on either side that pull the oven towards the front plate, or the front of the oven. Now, the way I've done it with the top oven, I pushed the top oven back so it wasn't contacting this front plate at all. I strapped this up so it was dead vertical. Then the lower oven, I eased the lower oven forward to the front plate, squaring it up with the tunnels here. So got pretty much even gap on the left, to the right, to the bottom, to the top, a little bit more on the top. But it's really, you want to aim for the left and the right and the bottom to be nice and snug. Then I slowly did those studs up, and it's you got to be careful you don't pull the frame back. You don't want that to go back. So you snug the oven up as much as you can, then tighten the bolts and recheck and tighten, loosen, wiggle, 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 tighten up again until this is vertical and the tunnel is fairly well trapped between the oven and the front plate, which the lower oven is. Then you do the same on the top, making sure the front plate stays vertical, snug the top oven in, tighten the bolts, keep checking this, you don't want this to be off, and adjusting the oven at the same time. Just looking around for the torch, I could show you under here. There's, I already mentioned it, there's 3 screws that point up that contact a transfer plate. Now mine's a deluxe 4-oven oven. 4-oven oven. It's got 4 ovens in it. If you've got a non-standard one, you might not have 2 heat transfer plates. We'll go the other side. You can see what they are when they're sticking out. These are the heat transfer plates. This one doesn't have any adjustment bolts on it. It just gets pushed up to the barrel when it's sitting in here above the ash pit. The top one does have 2 adjusting bolts that push it snug against the barrel again. This is attached to the top oven with 1 bolt. I can show you that if I can find the torch in a second. You can tighten that up once you're done, but it's really, I believe, for location. When you're moving this oven, this goes with it. It's a big heavy chunk, but there's 1 single bolt that goes through. But that's the 2 ovens now. In my case, I've moved the oven to the left slightly, so the chimney, which has got Sainsbury's carrier bag stuffed in it at the moment, that chimney's not going to be vertical. So I'm going to have a little bit of a fiddle around with this and see if we can move over slightly. Now, if you're just moving the oven, depending on where you're going to go, I expect you won't have a problem with the chimney. All I had to do with mine was move it about 30 mil that way. So I got a chimney issue coming up, but that's by the way. But I'm happy with this. This is nice and firm and level. The top plate is level. And that's the important bit. Like I said before, your eggs will run to one side otherwise. I just found the torch. Forgive me going over here. That bolt I was talking about with the transfer plate is there. That just holds a transfer plate on when you're moving it, although I will snug it up when we're done. And under here, you've got 3 adjusters. 1, 2, and there's 1 on the other side there. What I did find when I'm adjusting the ovens, see if the torch will fit in there, that adjuster bolt I was talking about and the nut descends from the top oven. Now it wasn't quite snug in place in the hole on the top oven, so it wasn't allowing me to adjust the top oven. So make sure that nut doesn't descend and start fouling with the transfer plates. I stuck a bit of wood down, straightened the bolt and nut up, pulled it up into the recess, and everything was good then. So yeah, pleased with that. I'm going to put the kettle on, get a cup of tea now. But the next thing, if you bear with me, is going to fit the ash pit. They call it an ash pit, like I said in earlier part of the video. That's their technical term for it. But I'm running oil, so there's no ash, but they still call it an ash pit. and that's going to fit on these three adjustable legs again. Same sort of principle as the other side. Last night I glued this gasket, I'm going to call it, fire wick. It's not a wick, I called it that wrong last time, but basically it's an insulating material that should seal the barrel and ash pit to the two ovens on the right hand side there. So yeah, I'll work out how to do that. That's the next thing. I'll get that into place and I'll take you through it. One point to note before you put the ash pit in is make sure you've got the rope gasket around here. This is the one you saw me bond back in yesterday, and it's all glued in well, so that's fine. There's also a gasket here running around. Make sure that's in good condition and in place, because once the ash pit goes in, you're going to start getting things obscured here. So like tighten bolts up. The bolt there, very difficult to get to once you start putting the ash pit and the heat barrel in. So yeah, just wanted you aware of that. So I'm going to lift the ash pit in now, and we'll see what that looks like. There are two bolts. That's all there is holding it to the front. They go here. There's one down there. I'll show you those because on my AGA, they look like that. I think they're a 10mm bolt. They could be imperial depending on how old your AGA is. But there's a washer and some insulating material there. Now either that was put in because the bolts are too long and it would have pressed out the front of the AGA, or it's thermal reasons. So you're not transferring a lot of heat energy to the front of this, which you wouldn't want to do because you're going to lose energy, going to cost you money. So I'm going for that last option is thermal. But yep, there's your ash pit. Mine's an oil one, like I've probably said a few times. Couple of lugs here. That's where those two bolts go through. So just to line that so that they're within the lug area, of course, and central. Don't have it right over to one side and right over the edge here. Have it central, snug it up. Looks like there's a recess here where that gasket I showed you a few seconds ago goes in. So, and there's three legs just to level it, so make sure this is level. This is on mine where the oil goes. Where is it? Here it is. There's your oil burner. Now, although there are adjustment bolts here, it's very critical that's level. Otherwise, you're going to have issues with the burner. Just dismantle out, take a couple of them out. In there's channels where the oil runs. So you imagine the oil's going in, if it's not level, it's all going to be up one side or the other side of that burner unit. So whilst we can level that, the more level that is to start with, you're on a winner then. So let's get the ash pit in and go from there. Right, there you go. There's a barrel in. I've adjusted the best I can for horizontal, vertical, etc. for the top. This one is slightly going that way. This one slightly going that way. So there's not a lot I can do about that because this is a fixed unadjustable block that bolts to the roasting oven, and there's mating machine parts here. Get that out of the way. That's got the gasket in there, so there's no adjustability there. So one's going one way, one's going the other. If they both going the same way, something I could do about it, but unfortunately I can't. But I've done the best I can. It's better than it was, I would say that. Um, this arm here is fine. The arm on the other side, very, very bad casting. Um, I can't show you now, but I can tell you what happened. This lower arm there was probably in line with this. So the pin, the bolt that holds the barrel up, was really cocked. So what I've had to do, I don't know if you can see through the light there, there's a little shiny plate. I've used that to pack the arm out to bring it in nearer the barrel. So some improvements. It'll still cook, put it that way. But what I've got to do now, the big heat transfer plate, you can see just here. You see the black gasket running around. I don't know if we can get that into focus. A little bit difficult here. But that has got to be bored up against the barrel. And that's what the two adjusting bolts are for over here, which I've showed you a few times already. One there, one there. Got a spanner on ready. So all I'm going to do is just gently snug that up against the barrel. I'm not going to go too tight because if I do, it's liable to skew the barrel that way, and I don't want it. I just want it to snug up because ultimately what I'm going to do, I'll get the torch over here, get some fire cement around this crack here just to properly seal it. The gasket I think is going to do a fairly good job, but a smear of fire cement around there will finish it off. Incidentally, that's a plate I put in when I took out the boiler. Used to have a little boiler to heat the hot water. Great, but it used extra 1,000 litres of oil a year just to heat the hot water. So that came out. I saved a lot of money that way. Granted, we're on electric for immersion heater now, but nevertheless, it's a lot cheaper than burning the oil. It's top quality upgrade there. You see a bit of angle iron holding the metal plate in. Does the trick, works well. People say the barrel should be changed if you're blocking that up. Yeah, probably. But this was the cheaper option and it's been running like that for years without issues. I've checked the barrel over before we fitted it, as the arms and everything else. Nothing's cracked. Apparently they can crack, cast iron and all that. But, fingers crossed so far, it's looking good. So I'm going to snug that gasket up, work out what I've got to do next. I've got some bars to put in to hold the lid on. I've also got, on mine, I've got 4 ovens, like I said before. If you look over here, still a lot of AGA left to fit. So I'll crack on with that. Right, got the barrel in, all lined up the best I can. Fire cement, let's put the light on, bright lights and all that. There you go, bit of fire cement around there to seal that up. That's 100% sealed now. Got the gasket there as backup. It's all as level as it's going to be. And I've even tried the chimney where the bag is there, and 89.9 degrees vertical, which, yeah, fair enough. Good for Mike. So I'm going to call it a day on this video. I think it's number 4 we're going to roll into, which is ultimately going to be the last video. Fit in the other 2 ovens on the side. Should be fairly straightforward. They just drop in a bit more. The rope gasket goes round. Back and the side. Quick test with the lid fits on. Fill it with vermiculite and get the apple pie out. But there we go. Anyhow, thanks for watching so far. Please come back and join me on number 4.